ADHD. I'm your host, Chris Johnson. Late diagnosed with ADHD, I'm a senior leader and a personal change coach. I work with people that want to change their lives for the better. In coaching, I work with people to understand what is getting in the way of making changes and how they can not only get the changes that they want, but also to help them feel good whilst doing it. I typically work with people over a series of sessions, but in This is ADHD, I use those same coaching skills to have a real conversation about what it's like to have ADHD. The conversations in This is ADHD are about putting a face to the name, label, or diagnosis of ADHD and showing that ADHD cannot be described in a single conversation with a single person. So that whilst my ADHD is almost definitely different to yours, both of us are equally valid. In today's episode, I'm joined by Matthew from Melbourne, and we're talking an awful lot about his approach to integrating autism, ADHD, and music. Content warnings for this episode include autistic burnout, stress, anxiety, and overwhelm. And there is swearing from the beginning and throughout the entire episode. So if you want to grab a hot drink, sit back, and let's get into this conversation. Welcome to This is ADHD. Today I am joined by Matt. Hi Matt, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks Chris. Look, I'm Matt. I normally go by Matthew, but I am Matt Frequencies, a eclectic DJ who runs a boatload of metal and other nonsense in story sets, and I've weaponized my ADHD and my autism to create characters that I perform when I'm out DJing.
Wonderful. Do you want me to re-record that with Matthew?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Are you sure? No.
Yeah. It's okay. It occurred to me I had a little bit of a problem that normally I have monitoring on my headphones and I couldn't hear myself, so I'm like, oh, I need to pop a headphone out. But that's fine. This is how I DJ anyway, so whatever.
Nice. So, Matt, you do so much stuff in the music scene. Like, do you want to, before we even talk about what your ADHD is, do you want to just like explain what it is you do, the soundscape bizarrety that you've produced, because it's amazing.
Yeah, look, it's difficult to describe what I do in normal sort of DJ terms, because like normally when you DJ, you get up, you play the music of the crowd, and you're playing songs that sort of fit the crowd. And I do that, but I also write stories for a series I call the Book of Divergence, which is basically a bunch of narrated stories told through music and a few voice lines that are then backed up by characters that I play out during the performance. So you'll have the kindly Father Matthew, who will be presenting his sermons from the Church of Bass. Or you'll have Brother Seth, who'll come in and fuck with his night. So I was getting into voice acting when I started getting into DJing, and I basically ADHD'd the whole lot together and went, fuck it, this sounds like a great idea. And decided to take a story made out of metal and video game music to an EDM competition, and won my stage with it. So I just kind of ran with it. I'm like, all right, people like it, cool. Let's see what we can do with it.
It's such an ADHD thing of going, I've got this interest here, I've got this interest here. Look, here's where they overlap, and look at this thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then everyone's sitting there looking at you going, what the fuck? What have you made? And me going, I don't know, but do you like it?
And they're like, yes, actually, we'll buy some more of this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll have that. Thanks. Can we book you for a performance?
Then you've got to write more, unfortunately. That's the trouble with success.
Well, yeah, but I'm actually loving it. Like, I'm in the middle of working on my third chapter of the story at the moment, and it's going to have at least 10 chapters. So it's quite involved. I've done that thing where it's like, hey, okay, let's just how complicated is this gonna get? Okay, it's gonna get that complicated. Okay.
That's nice. So if people haven't come to chapter 1, can they still go see it? Can they? Or
Yeah,
is
yeah,
it too late
absolutely.
now?
All the chapters are independent of each other, and the beauty of it is because of how I've built it, it's actually a Dungeons and Dragons type adventure. So it's a choose your own adventure. The audience gets in, and you can kind of see in the background, sort of. This was actually from one of the shows that we did of it. On the bar, there'll be a couple of boards that have the story and the 2 options of how the story is going to play out. And people vote for that as I'm playing the music. And then at that first fork, people start voting for the second option of how it's going to play out. So there's 4 possible endings. Hence,
Like it.
Book of Divergence.
And is there? So you make a decision. So D&D to my head is all about the dice rolling. Do you have critical successes and critical failures?
Not yet, but I am planning on working some of that into the sets and actually having each set then have a success condition and a fail condition that can lead to different paths as well, which might end up making it that you can have 8 different endings, potentially.
Right. Yeah, you make all the right choices, but the gods of luck aren't with you.
Yeah, exactly. But the whole thing is that because there's so many endings to the set, it doesn't really matter if you've seen chapter 1, because every time I play it very slightly differently anyway, and then we might head to a completely different ending in chapter 1 regardless. So, and so I have to build each chapter on the assumption that people may not have run into a specific ending of a specific chapter.
Nice. That's so cool.
But there is
cool.
actually a canonical path, as it were. Same as how, like, I don't know if you've played World of Warcraft, but those sort of open world RPGs that have a storyline behind them that also has binary choices, there's always a canonical, these are who won. This is the people who won.
Yeah. Like it. Immediately I'm like, okay, and then once you've done all 10, I assume there's going to be like one-shots as well where you're exploring the universe and doing all the other things as well. Going,
Yeah,
like,
there'll be more character development and stuff like that. Like it's an involved project, and because it's got all this story stuff with it, I'm kind of sitting on the borderline of it being DJing versus being a drama production. So I'm quite careful about, like, I do use a lot of commercial music, but if I'm working with smaller artists especially, I reach out and I say, hey, this is what I want to do with it. Is it all right?
And I assume everyone's absolutely fine with it as well, because you're getting the names.
Most people have been fantastic with it, and you know, when people do sign up on and they're like, yeah, okay, you can use my music for that. I hit them up on Instagram and I make sure I link their pages and stuff, because we've got to look after each other. The music industry is not exactly well paid, put it that way.
Yeah, it's all that passion as opposed to actual payment.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, brilliant.
There we go.
Love. So I'm gonna get to the question. So what do you call your ADHD?
Well, right now I call it Brother Seth. Because literally as a pleasure to meet you.
So is your ADHD very much the chaos side of it?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yep. It's, to be honest, it's a pain in my ass. It is forgotten phones. It is all of the things that just you can't keep track of. It is, oh, I put that in a cupboard, it's gone. I actually don't know what's in the cupboard until I open the cupboard.
Yeah.
I can't picture it.
We need to bring back those like 50s cupboards with glass fronts.
Oh God.
You know,
we have those in the kitchen. No thanks.
There's just no solution then.
No, there's no great answer to it. It's a real, yeah. It is a disability, as we often say in this house. You know, it is having a budget. It is being prepared to pay the ADHD tax on, oh, I've lost this cable, I have no idea where it is. You buy the cable, it shows up the same day.
Yeah, and you do that 5 times for 5 weeks in a row.
Yep, and then eventually you go back to sort all your cable boxes and you go, why do I have 7 of this cable? Why did I ever need that?
Yeah, And so you've got Brother Seth, then, sorry, Father
Matthew with
Father
one
Matthew.
T.
With one T.
The biblical Matthew.
Yes. So how does the autism and the ADHD kind of combine for you?
Well, so the autism for me is an ability to spot patterns in things and connect them in ways that you shouldn't necessarily be able to connect them. It's very much that, how the hell did you spot that those two go together? And for me, I'll go, I don't know. I just spotted they went together and I plugged it in for about 3 hours and, oh, hey, it actually worked. But, you know, it'll be some weird combination. Like I'll hear some melody in a song and then I'll hear some bass line in another song and I'll realize that they're exactly the same. I've done it with a few songs recently, that like even at the rave I played the other week, where it's stuff like Dota by Bass Hunter, you know. I wanted to be a singer. I'm not a particularly good one. But Dota by Bass Hunter and Pretty Rave Girl by Searle actually turn out to be exactly the same melody. And so you can play them on top of each other and actually substitute the lyrics, and they work perfectly.
That's nice.
So it's stuff like that. It's being able to just instantly draw those connections and go, hey, this is going to go with that. Cool, let's play them together.
Can I point something out that I noticed?
Mm-mm.
So when we talked about Brother Seth and we talked about your ADHD, you said it's a disability. That was one of the first things you said. And when you talked about Father Matthew, the first thing you said was it's an ability. Correct.
And it's not that I don't think my ADHD does give me extra abilities, as it were. Like I certainly can harness my ADHD. I harness that hyperfocus. I harness a lot of what it gives me. But I'm frustrated by my ADHD far more than I'm frustrated by my autism.
And is that kind of the clash between the two?
I think so. I think it's very much my autism wants me to be organised. It wants me to be structured. It wants everything to go in a certain direction. And my ADHD says, I don't think so, Father Matthew. It's time for us to get chaos.
Is that thing like you want structure, you want to be like fully ordered, fully organised, and then you actually go, I'm trying to herd cats within my own body, within my own brain.
Yeah, basically. Like when I create all these stories and stuff, I go through this process of being so careful about how I structure them. And then I'll get halfway through actually preparing and playing it and I'll go, but this would sound better. So all the planning goes out the window. And so I have to allow for my brain doing that.
Yeah, I can see that being frustrating.
Yeah, it's very much the bored now. We're going this way now. Oh, that one, and that one, and that one, and that one, and that one.
But does it work though? It
Yes.
sounds like it works.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It really genuinely does. It's led to some great moments, and it's let me plug music together in ways that I never really imagined I was going to. Like this is something I always wanted to do when I was a kid, but never had the right outlet for. And so now I've got this creative outlet and it's like, oh, this is good.
Yeah. So how did you kind of go from like pre-ADHD and autism to kind of where you are now? What was that
I got completely disabled and bedridden for about a year. And that sort of forces you to look at things a little bit.
So, yeah, that's...
But before I
common.
knew... Yeah, before I knew what was going on, we sort of just assumed that I was a guy and I had some autistic traits, and we kind of joked about it every now and then. But then in 2020, during all the stress and frustration and my second child being born right before stage 3 lockdown here in Melbourne, which was some of the most severe lockdowns in the world. I don't know if you've heard of them, but we had lockdown restrictions that were like 9 o'clock curfews. You couldn't leave the house, sort of thing. And I'd only seen that in like Italy, in one of those small towns. There was a mayor running around kicking people's doors in because they were trying to get out. But in Melbourne, it was the whole city, and it was literally helicopter patrols. It was, you had to have permits to be out after 9. Papers, please. And so, yeah, during all the stress of that, second child comes, I get an email telling me that my dad's dying of motor neurone disease. Fucking you name it, that year was shit.
Yeah.
My body just said, I don't want to do this anymore, and put me into an autistic shutdown, meltdown, overload, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I lost my ability to function. I couldn't be upright for longer than 15 minutes. I couldn't be in noisy areas. I couldn't be in well-lit areas. I was wearing sunglasses inside. It was headphones on. It was all of the disabling features of autism. All of the stuff that people look at and go, yes, that's what makes autism disabling. It was everything all at once, and it was me just going, I don't know how to cope with this anymore. And my partner going, I don't know how to cope with this. And so us going through lots of neurological tests and because motor neurone disease in the family, we had to go through everything.
Yeah.
And we were picking up everything under the fucking sun. And eventually we came down to it being three things. We're Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is I've got hypermobility. I've got very, very flexible elbows, and very flexible, basically everything else in my body.
Yep.
Which screws with my ability to regulate my pulse, regulate my heart rate, and then when I get anxious, that makes it worse. And gee, what's a key feature of ADHD? Anxiety. Rampant anxiety. And yeah, but going through all of those processes and talking to the psychiatrists and getting myself diagnosed and then getting on the appropriate medications, it all started to come back down to a normal sort of functional level. I'm still never going to be able to work full time because we've tried me working 8 hours a day, and I just can't. But it's kind of been comforting going, okay, I'm disabled now, deal with it, move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, pre-diagnosis, when I was young, it was I used to work night fill. I don't know if you know shelf stacking. Yeah. And I remember one specific night, because I used to be quite crazy. I would drift the 6-wheel trolleys, and I'd be sprinting through the aisles. Like I was one of the fastest packers that was there, so he gave me a lot of grace for it. But there was one night he pulled me aside and he said, look, I got to be honest with you. Are you doing cocaine before you come in? Because if you are, we need to have a talk about it. And it's just like, wow, I'm like 17, dude. What the hell? Why is this a thing you're asking me?
Yeah.
And as it turns out, the reason he was asking is because what I was doing was not normal.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Or totally normal with ADHD, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. It's funny though, like so many of the tips you see about how to function with ADHD, they all assume one thing, which is that you're already medicated. And it's like, if you don't have that step up, if you don't already have that level of serotonin, I forget it.
Neurotransmitters. There's dopamine as well.
If you don't have the good stuff, then none of those tips are going to work for you at all, because you can't. You just can't.
So I'm totally unmedicated. So yeah, not by choice.
No, understand.
Just that I can't afford it at the moment to go through the process of titration. I have had some benefits from ADHD coaching and therapy and things like that.
Okay. Mea culpa, but for me, none of it worked.
Yeah. No, totally. And I think it's that thing of.
But I think for me also it was kind of like I'm a severe case. If there's rankings of it, it's very much that when I am unmedicated, it is the full bore like hello.
Yeah. Whereas like seen you fiddling about at the moment.
Yeah, that's okay. I've got
Yeah.
knobs and stuff I'm playing with, so I'm playing with my knob while we're doing this.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Anyway,
How's that grip?
fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's that thing of like, I know when my ADHD is up as well, and it's kind of that wave of going, some days it is unmanageable, some days it's totally fine. And yeah, it very little control over it.
Yeah, that's the horrible thing. And I think for me that was the unmedicated experience for me as well, is the waves of like being able to focus, able to handle it, able to manage, and then being completely unable to remember where I put the keys.
Yeah.
Leaving my house open as I go out for 3 days, or forgetting really important things. I forgot a friend's wedding once. Like, and they looked at me like, how do you forget that? Do you just not care? It's like, well, no, I do care an awful lot, and I'm going to go have a breakdown about this now. But I still forgot.
Yeah. Yeah. Weddings, birthdays, any kind of events. You need to organise this thing. Yeah.
We've failed to take our eldest to 3 separate birthday parties this year, simply because we forgot on the day.
This year, as in, we're 14 days into the year.
No, 2023. We're not quite that impressive. We're good. We're not that good.
That's a lot of birthday parties in the start of the year. I was like,
No. We've only been to one so far.
And you made it. So
Yes,
it's
we did make it to
record
that one, but that was
2024.
also not one that he was invited to. So that
Is that
was
extra
one.
credit?
Well, it was one I was invited to by a friend for a 1-year-old that was, 2-year-old. And the eldest is 5, so kind of. But, I mean, I would forget everyone in my life's birthdays, including my own, if I didn't have calendar reminders.
Yeah, I've got a big old paper calendar, and if it's not on there, it doesn't exist. And that includes taking the bins out every week.
Oh, yes. Yep. Not the first time we've woken, because our truck comes at 6 a.m. And so we'll wake up to the truck being outside and go, fuck.
Yeah. If I'm working from home on that day, they do the street behind me before mine, so I've got like half an hour.
Yep.
If I'm working in the office, I leave about an hour before they turn up. So.
Lucky. Lucky. You're insured either way.
I don't know. It involves me being awake enough to realise as I'm driving out that everyone else has got their bins out.
Oh, God. And speaking of driving, how is driving when you're that tired?
It's fine. It's kind of like, automated mode.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that thing of I've always got a cup of coffee before I leave. Like, it takes me over an hour to leave the house in the morning. Like, just to get myself up to a point of going, like, this is awake enough, let's go.
Yep, I know the one. Although, have you ever done the one where it's you wake up and you're in the car and driving within 5 minutes because you're running late?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, fuck. And, that's the fastest I've ever got dressed, and how am I on the freeway already?
Yes. Yeah. I think it's the other weekend I was messaging a friend, like, oh, did you want to meet up? She's like, yeah. I'll be ready in about half an hour. Like, and it was 20-minute drive away. I was like, okay, I'm still in bed. Bam, 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 bam. Done. Like, why can't I do this every day of the week?
ADHD, that's why.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm in your head, screwing with your plans.
So how was like life before diagnosis, before being bedridden, and being like, how did you kind of cope before when?
It was fucking magic, to be
unknowing?
honest. I was a absolute machine. I used to supercharge Mustangs, and I used to build supercharged wide body Mustangs. I was one of 2 builders in the country that made Shelby wide body Mustangs in Australia. And I could power through the things. Like, I could supercharge one of these suckers in 5 hours. I think my record was 4.5 from on hoist to on road. And, you know, we're talking pulling the top of the engine apart and cutting bits off it and installing the supercharger and all the hoses, everything, all in 4.5 hours. And I used to be able to do that. Like, that's the frustrating thing. That should sort that.
There we go. I'm so used to office calls where I can just hit a button and unmute myself, but there's a whole mouse involved. Oh, love it. Love it.
Stop drooping, motherfucker. You can have my
Here
bottle.
it happens. It happens with age.
Look, I don't have any blue pills, all right? Don't you start. You twiddle my knobs at you. Yeah, spin some decks.
All right.
Anyway. So, I used to be a powerhouse. That was the thing. I used to be an absolute fucking powerhouse. I was, without sounding too egotistical, I was the best mechanic at the store that I was working at, in terms of, like, not general mechanic, okay? We had a way better general mechanic, in way more experience. But in terms of getting one of these things built, I could do 2 of these a week. And it was nuts. And they relied on it. They were able to pump a lot of cars through as a result, and it was a really good feeling. But yeah, when my function started declining, it went down very, very, very quickly. And I think to be honest, one of the first really noticeable signs that things were going downhill severely was when I was in a customer car. It was one of 2 Shelby GT350s in the country. And I was just doing an oil cooler fitment or something on it. And I've hopped in just to start it up, just to make sure that everything was working correctly after the fitment. And I've hopped out of it to go look at the engine bay, and I've hopped out of it and it's driven off into a pole because I left it in first instead of in neutral. So I allowed a customer's one of 2 GT350 to plow itself into a pole and completely annihilate the front. I was not a very popular man. The guy was calling for my head, and my boss was literally going, look, if he wasn't one of our best mechanics, probably give it to you.
Wow.
And it just got harder from there. And like I still managed to achieve some incredible things in that year, but and then prior to that, I was in IT, and I was all over the place. I was working in different schools. I was extremely busy. But it was always, if you have something that's gone really badly wrong and you need an ad hoc solution, not a by the book solution, but you need an ad hoc solution because nobody else can figure out how to solve this thing, you send Matt. It will get solved. You may not like how it gets solved, but it will get solved.
Yeah. It's interesting, kind of listening to you. Like, there's two like, what's the word? Tropes of career that I'm hearing described. Which is one which is very, very structured. You come in, you do the car, and you do it really well, and you do it the same every time, and you get really, really efficient, and you know exactly what you're doing every day. And then there's
exactly that.
Yeah, the chaos monkey of going, I don't know what I'm going to see, I don't know what I'm going to do, I'm going to blam.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And ironically, I've managed to now weave both of them into, DJing. I've got my structure and my chaos. I get to bake my cake, have it, eat it, and throw it in people's faces. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think there's that thing of like looking at it and going, how do we function in the past? You go, oh yes, so we work in careers where the traits are valued and where you do the things that you're naturally good at. I say naturally good at. You're not naturally good at anything.
No,
they weren't doing caveman IT, but you take the traits and go like, this is.
Well, one thing I am naturally good at is I have an ichrometer, which I can spot things to within a couple of millimeters from a distance, or a couple of degrees from a distance. And so I can very easily tell you, okay, yes, that box is going to fit in that space, or yes, that shelf is going to fit in that space, or this supercharger will fit in this engine bay, but we're going to need to move the engine mounts this much, and we're going to need to clear this much space, and we're going to need to move the bonnet scoop, and we're going to need to do all this stuff. But after we've put 30 hours in, I promise you this supercharger will fit by this much. and then my boss having the faith to go, all right, I believe you. And me going, Jesus Christ, I hope I was right.
And you were, I suppose, as well.
Thank God, yes.
Yes.
But yes, it is very much that leaning on the natural traits, I guess.
Yeah, I've not heard of that visual processing before. That sounds amazing.
Oh, it's incredible. Like, it's so damn useful. And, like, I've got a similar thing with numbers where I can very easily spit out the answer to a very, very complex maths problem. I just can't tell you how I got there, and I couldn't do it repeatedly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And God forbid it ever shows up when I actually need it, as opposed to when somebody's asking me, what the square root of 14 is, and I go, oh, okay, that would be 2.61, which is wrong, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think it's that thing of like, I don't have anywhere near that, but I think one of my tics is numbers and playing with numbers in my head, and sometimes I'll go
3.86 something. Can you check that? I'm curious. 3.86?
1 second.
Square root of 14.
3.74.
Oh, off by.
We'll give it to you. I think I see patterns in numbers, but I don't have maths as like a skill. But I could go, oh, that number there is 6 times that number. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I can just.
I just do, okay? Can you just trust me that it's right?
Yeah.
Please,
yeah.
I can't explain it. Can you just trust me that I'm right?
Yeah. I think it's my parents' phone number. The first 3 digits are 4 times the last 3 digits of all.
That sort of, yep.
Yeah, and I go like, I can remember that really easily, and I don't know why. And it took me like 3 months to go, oh, that's because those two are divisible by each other. Oh, there we go. Like, everyone looks at you, go like, why is that
when
easy
I was
to remember?
working in schools, I used to tell teachers, don't tell me your password. Do not tell me your password, because I will remember it, and I will remember it 7 years from now. And frankly, I just don't need to have that knowledge in my head 7 years from now, okay?
Mind palace, do not need the junk in it.
Yes, I just do not litter my brain, okay?
So, sorry, we are proper ADHDing today. We're going all over the place.
Sorry. I did warn you, I am a basket case.
No, I would say, like, we're in good company with each other.
Yes. Yes. Look, for things like this, I tend to let Seth drive. And because, look, frankly, Father Matthew gets a little bit uncomfortable in the limelight, and Seth really enjoys it, so.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So, like, you went from highly functional, wrong word, do not like that word.
I understand. I've been avoiding saying it.
Yeah, from having a job that you were happy with and successful in, to kind of having, like, is the word burnout okay in this?
Yeah, burnout. Autistic burnout is actually the medical term for it, so.
Yeah, so autistic burnout, identification, medication, everything's gravy now?
I wouldn't say gravy. Say gravy. But it is easier to cope now than it was 3 years ago. However, it is not as easy to cope now as it was, say, 6 years ago. Because my masking skill has just gone through the floor.
Yeah.
And so my ability to give a fuck what other people think has also correspondingly gone through the floor, which has somewhat affected my ability to be professional business.
I think that's something really important though, as well, like, and I've heard this a few different places of going, like, actually, if you gave less of a fuck about what other people thought about you and just got on with doing what you wanted in the way that you wanted it to, your life would be a lot easier and people actually don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, for me, the revelation moment was starting to do acapellas because it was one of the few things I could do from bed. And so, like, literally, I just picked up a microphone one day and started whistling into it and doing weird noises. Like, I've got it's an autistic stim, but one of my things is doing echolalia and weird mouth noises. You know.
So cool. So cool.
And so I thought, okay, well, can I harness that and turn it into like a weird way of doing acapellas and do weird noises? And then I ran into a guy on YouTube called Tom Thumb, who's basically weaponized it since he was about 12, and has made an entire career out of it. And I'm like, oh, hey, cool, I want to be like him.
Okay.
And
sorry?
Yeah, that's okay. You go.
I was just going to say, acapella sound effects different to human beatboxing.
Yeah, a little bit. Acapella is normally more like pentatonics. Since just about everybody's heard pentatonics. You haven't heard pentatonics. When this call's done, go listen to pentatonics. Pentatonics did an amazing cover of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, and it is absolutely worth listening to.
Okay.
I think everyone should listen to it at least once. It is a masterpiece of what can be done with the human voice. But yeah, so a cappella is usually much more, you have people doing layered sounds. The Levan polka is a good example of the Evan polka. Right? Those sort of, making noises, but when you beatbox, it's much more about using the mouth percussively.
Yeah.
Right, so... Right?
Yeah.
But what I was doing was some sort of weird fusion between the two of, like, using my mouth to create an entirely different instrument.
Oh, okay.
Because
I've doing this from...
Yeah, doing it from bed and just kind of going, look, I know this is going to sound rubbish, but on the other hand, nobody's going to be watching it, so who cares? Which was a little bit unfortunate when my very first a cappella I dropped was Rush E, and it's become my most popular.
Really? Just starting low.
Yeah. Look, ADHD, okay.
Oh, could you explain what Rush E is for people who don't know? Because I've seen a few videos, but I don't know how to explain it.
If you're not familiar with Rush E, it is the most, well, at the time it was, the most complicated piano piece ever produced. And basically the entire intention of it was just to be a complete meme. It is very fast, it is very Russian, hence Rush E. And it is basically Russian piano folk music taken up to 11 and then doused in petrol, set on fire, and then thrown through an entire field of grand pianos.
I have seen, I can't remember who it was now, one of the YouTubers, they had an automated piano playing Rush E, and it broke the piano.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think that was sort of my introduction to it too. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I should really check this out more because this is interesting. And then, as you do, I kind of got obsessed with it and started singing it. And then I decided, screw it, let's try it. And yeah, it's actually still the most watched video on my channel. It's racking up like 1,000 views a week or something. It's actually popular, and I'm like, fuck. Now what? Now fucking what?
You could have started there. And
I kind of peaked, didn't I?
Yes, yeah.
But I've decided that the easy thing to do there is just to go, okay, I'm going to do Megalovania now, because I can.
I've got an interesting, or maybe it's an interesting question, because I'm not purely in the ADHD camp. I am 90% in the ADHD camp with some traits of autism. Which is quite common. I think so. I don't have special interests. I have hyperfocuses. Do you see the difference between the two and like how they work?
Yes, I actually do. I actually do. Special interests are something that even when you're not thinking about it, you're thinking about it in some sort of way. And everything sort of connects back to that special interest. Like at the moment, DJing is a special interest. It's not a hyperfocus, it's a special interest. And it always has been, which is why it's so great for me that I've got into it, because I've always thought about, how could I mix these songs together? How could I interact these two? How could I use this sort of thing, right? It's never not been at that level for me. Whereas the hyperfocus is when I start creating a set for a chapter, for instance, and I will sit on it for 14 hours, and my partner will come up to me and go, have you eaten today? When's the last time you went to the toilet? Was it when you got up? Okay, yes, go to the toilet, go have a bath and have some food.
Yeah, it's that thing of like hyperfocus is almost like very short-lived, whereas that special interest is kind of enduring forever.
And I think it's something that I don't know if you get, but it's something that for me is terrifying in ADHD, is the idea that, is this thing that I'm really, really having fun with right now a special interest or a hyperfocus? And what's going to happen when the hyperfocus dies off?
Yeah.
And that frankly is terrifying, because it's like, you know when the hyperfocus goes, it's gone. That's it. Done.
Yeah.
And you never get it back.
Yeah, there is no dopamine left in the activity.
It's gone.
No, it's I'm writing essays at the moment about coaching, and I have got no joy in it whatsoever.
Yeah,
even though I've done all the work. Yeah,
when the dopamine's sucked out of it is horrible, because it goes from being, this is so much fun, I'm having a great time with this, to I literally want to throw my laptop out a window rather than do this. I would sooner I would sooner try and clip my cat's claws than try and do this. Oh, look, I have laundry to be doing. Oh, excellent. Yeah. Oh, hey, does that bit of the house need... Oh, gee, I haven't cleaned that wall in a while. And, good grief. Oh, what a shame. I'm going to have to clean that entire wall now.
Yeah, but it's not even like conscious thought of it, is it? It's like you just start doing it.
Exactly.
That's the thing that needs it.
Yeah, because you suddenly start seeing all these other things that need doing that aren't the thing that actually needs doing.
Yeah, and you do those things, and suddenly they're rewarding because you're getting it done.
Yeah.
Oh, look. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic! This is great, and it's also rewarding because it is your brain kind of giving you the dopamine of, I'm successfully avoiding the work.
Yes. Yeah. Or even that thing of like, I feel really guilty about it. You're beating yourself up about not doing the thing.
God, how bad is the guilt? Oh my God, I will, and you'll invent things and do things to feel guilty about. And you'll go off and do, and you're like, no sane human would do this. Why the hell am I doing this? And you know, while you're doing it, that no sane human would do this in this way. But you're still doing it, and you're feeling guilty about it, and you feel good that you feel guilty about it, and that makes it worse.
Yeah, just hate it. Just hate it sometimes. Like when it's out of control, it is so difficult to break that cycle.
And the self-destruction is just like the things that you've ruined, or the things that I've ruined in my life because of that process. It's just like, yeah. And this is why I call it a disability.
Hashtag superpowers.
Yes, exactly. My superpower, setting fire to everything in a 9-foot radius when I'm feeling like I need to feel self-destructive about something.
Yeah. I think I don't know, for you, like, what is... So something that I'm struggling with at the moment is, like, mood regulation and anger. Like, overwhelming escalations of anger, and then going, I'm angry about something for days. Weeks sometimes.
We are very, very open about anger in this house because of the autism and the ADHD coexisting. And all the kids and my partner, like all of us, we're all ADHD. Which I think, by the way, is one of the worst acronyms because it means autistic deficit hyperactive disorder. It's like, I'm not deficit in the autism. I have plenty of autism. It's right here. Look, it's turned up to 11.
Yes. But at least it's not a deficit of attention, because that's not what ADHD is.
No, exactly. Both acronyms suck. Anyway.
Yes.
No, anger is a big thing in this house because we have two very specific flavours of it. We have the autistic anger and we have the ADHD anger. And the ADHD anger comes from being pulled out of hyperfocus. It comes from having finally mustered up the energy, the willpower, the whatever to get a task done, and then getting pulled out of it. And that happening over and over again, and it just making you snap. And it's flash in the pan, it's hot, it's fiery, but it builds over a while, and it takes a long time to get rid of. And it can really wreck things. And that frustration is just... The autistic anger is overload. And that builds over a much longer period. But once it finally goes and you either have a meltdown or you manage to get rid of it, whatever. I mean, I have hot baths. I have hot baths to try and reset my nervous system and do some co-regulation. Okay. And it tends to work for me. It tends to settle me back down and kind of go, okay, I can breathe now. I've got more ability to be loaded up. But that anger is the more dangerous one as far as I'm concerned, because the autistic overload anger can result in meltdowns that are beyond control. And me as a 6'3", fairly heavily built guy, having an out of control meltdown is a fucking nightmare. I haven't had one as an adult in probably 10 years at least, and I don't want to repeat the exercise because it was horrible. So give me an ADHD anger flare any day over that fuckery. There's the disability of the autism, by the way.
And I think it's that thing of like, you don't want to be angry. Like, you've got no choice in that either. And like, it's not a, oh, I'm angry, I get some pleasure out of this.
No, exactly. It's just it's a fury. It's a scary fury as well. It's this kind of like, you know, I have no way to get rid of this. I have no, like, for me, I've got multiple strategies in place. You know, when things get too bad, I can go chop wood, and I go out there and I will literally just beat the hell out of some logs with the woodcutter for a while. I'll go mow the lawn. I'll have a hot bath. It used to be that I had a boxing, hanging boxing words.
Punching bag.
I had a punching bag when I was a kid. And they all worked. Like, it's ways to get aggression out. But it's so frustrating that sometimes even the getting the aggression out doesn't fix it. Yeah, because there's that like physical part of it, and weirdly, I do a lot of poetry when I'm angry. Like a lot. So it kind of started because I was reading poetry, and then I was very angry, and I wrote some poems. I was like, oh, I feel a bit better. I'll keep doing this, and keep doing this, and keep doing this, and that makes sense.
Like,
channeling it into something. Yeah, and there's that thing of lots of talking out loud with the anger, going, I'm angry, this will not make sense, I need you to listen, and then I'll feel better. And then you need to listen, but also forget it immediately because it doesn't mean anything. we do a lot of in this house. Look, I can't actually discuss this right now because I'm heightened, but I want to discuss it, but right now I can't. We will, I can't. Just give me a bit.
Yeah.
And that can be frustrating being on the receiving end of that, but I'd rather have that than a blow-up.
Yeah. I think when you have that blow-up, it's so sharp as well to other people. Yes. And, like, I used to spend so much time apologising. And, like, people would come back and be like, oh, I didn't realise you were angry. And it's like, you didn't realise I was angry? Are you fucking kidding me right now? Are you serious? Oh, gosh.
I'm pretty sure they could see that anger from the ISS.
Yeah.
There's a Disney movie I haven't watched because I know it's going to set me off when I watch it, and that is Inside Out.
Okay.
Because I've seen enough snippets of it to know, look, this is not a movie for me to see until I have seen a psychologist. I need to talk some shit out before I see this movie.
Yeah. So, suddenly personifying the anger, going, oh no.
That's not a good idea. No.
Yeah.
No. My favourite quote in the house recently was, because my son's seeing a psychologist and my partner sees a psychologist. And he goes, well, if I'm seeing a psychologist because I get angry, and if you're seeing a psychologist because you get angry, why doesn't Daddy see a psychologist? It's like, I mean, you're right. But have you seen the waiting lists?
Thank you for calling me out in front of everyone.
Yes, thanks. Appreciate that. But I mean, he's right. He's absolutely right. Like, there's times I snap at the kids and I feel so terrible about it because it's like, you didn't deserve that. You're just being a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. There is something about, if you have an argument with a child, you have lost before you even started because you are the adult always.
Forget having arguments with them. It's not even that. It's literally just the constant pressure and the constant need and the constant demand that gets to an overload point and can't go any further.
So we're kind of coming to the end, Matthew.
Yeah.
What kind of lessons would you, or what would you say to yourself kind of 6 years ago, or maybe a bit longer ago?
Get over yourself and get yourself to a psych.
Yeah.
Like, seriously? Fucking honestly? Get over yourself and get yourself to a psych. Because there's no pride in being unhelped when you know that there's something not right in your head. And I don't think anyone that has ADHD or anyone that is autistic is unaware of themselves, if you know what I mean. They know there's something not right. They just don't know what it is. And maybe doctors have told them over the years that it's depression, that it's anxiety, that it's this, that, and the other. And they haven't managed to put together the dots enough. I mean, I worked in a special development school that specifically dealt with autism. And somehow I still didn't... giant flashing fucking signs. Most of my friends were autistic or ADHD, and somehow this still didn't manage to fucking connect the dots. But that's the thing, like, it's really, sometimes it is that level of you just can't see it. Yeah. And that's why I say just get over yourself. Just get over yourself and go, okay, maybe I actually do need to see someone about this.
Yeah. I think what's resonating with me is that thing of, if you're watching this or listening to this and you think you've got ADHD or autism, it's that thing of, it is serious. Take it seriously.
Yes.
Get help.
Yes. Like, and that's the thing. It's not like, if you think you have it, you have it. Okay? I don't want to mince words. If you listen to something like this, or if you read stuff and it makes you think, oh, maybe I do, as soon as you think maybe, you do. Yeah. And that's difficult for people to hear. And if you're one of those people that is difficult to hear that, I'm sorry. But it is something that people need to say and not mince words about, and just go, you need to see someone. You need to talk to someone, because you don't realise how much it's about to fuck your life up. Yeah. It's that thing of the way that you're feeling is not normal. It is not something that is felt by everyone. It is felt by everyone in certain communities, being neurodivergent communities. Yeah, if you look around and all of your friends are like this, I got news for you, my friend. Yeah, if all your family as well. One of the diagnostic criteria for my assessment was, how many friends do you have that have ADHD? And it's like, well, it's a legitimate diagnostic criteria. We come together because we understand each other. Yeah. Only ADHD people can talk in ADHD ways, where it is you bounce from topic to topic to topic to topic to topic without breathing. He just kept going from topic to topic. It was quite hypnotic. And if you get that reference, I like you. But I think it's that thing of, like, you can't follow that ADHD conversation, or in fact, it's almost annoying if you annoy your peers. Yeah. And you have friends which aren't annoyed by that. That sounds ADHD. Yes, exactly. if you're sitting there constantly going, oh, but we jump from 15 different topics and it's amazing, it feels great. Yeah. I really enjoy talking to this person. Yeah, there's a reason for that. Yeah. I went to a public speaking course recently. I say recently, like 6 months ago. And
And they were like, which speaker do you want to be? Bam, 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 bam. And it was Barack Obama, William Shakespeare's King Henry VIII, someone else, Captain Scully, Captain Sully from the plane, or Brené Brown.
Right.
And I listened to all of them, and they're all presented by professional actors. A brilliant course. But they're not paying me, so I'm not going to tell you where it was. And I was like, I want to be Brené Brown. I don't know why, but that delivery is exactly what I like. And of course, Brené Brown has got ADHD.
Well, of course. And it is the same with so many of the things that people like over time. I mean, you look at Robin Williams, undiagnosed, but neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And like that was discussed after his death. And there's so many examples out there of these brilliant people and brilliant artists and actors, and it really is something that seems to draw artists and actors to it, or that generates artists and actors. I don't know, but it's huge. And if you really resonate with someone like that, like Star Trek Discovery is fantastic for its representation, but if you resonate with Sylvia Tilly, I have news for you.
Oh, this is brilliant. So we're coming up to the end. So Matthew, so how can people follow you? How can they attend? How can they listen to you?
Look,
what else do you want to tell
if
people?
you are Melbourne local and you are listening to this, then please come on down to Tales from the Deck, which we have going on the 28th of January and again on the 23rd of March. That is our local display piece where we get DJs together to tell stories, and then and we perform the Book of Divergence. Me with my partner perform that. If you want to hit me up online, you can come along to Matt Frequencies on Instagram or on YouTube. And if you are feeling like a bit of travelling, we're going to be performing the Book of Divergence 4 times over the weekend of Chill Out Festival in a month and a half in the start of March. So we're going to be extremely busy.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you so much for having me, Chris. It's been great, and it has been extremely pleasurable. And very ADHD.
So I will say goodbye to Brother Seth and to Father Matthew as well.
Thank you kindly.
And that is it for today's episode of This is ADHD. You can follow the podcast on Instagram and Threads at This is ADHD Podcast. This is where you can find updates, polls, and opportunities to engage with other listeners. And you can also get in touch with me personally at The Coaching Blacksmith, also on Instagram and LinkedIn and Threads. If you have any suggestions for future episodes or guests, do feel free to reach out. I really love hearing from you and what you think about the podcast. And without you, the podcast is meaningless. It really does make it all worthwhile. If you want to talk even more about ADHD, or you want to support the running costs of the podcast, I now have a Substack, a newsletter. You can find and subscribe to the newsletter at thecoachingblacksmith, all one word, .substack.com. That's thecoachingblacksmith.substack.com. As always, thank you for joining us today. I hope this episode has helped you in some way.